Breaking news on the eve of the Prop 50 election here in California. President Trump announces he's launched a criminal investigation into irregularities in voting practices in our state. Coming up, we'll explore that and see if it will have any impact on the outcome. Plus, can Prop 50 be challenged in court if it succeeds? What to look for in the election results tonight and how they might change with each batch of voting that is counted, and why Republicans were their own worst enemy in the fight to stop Prop 50. All that and more coming up. I'm Carl DeMaio, chairman of Reform California and a California state legislator, and I'm recording this on the eve of the vote. Hours before polls close here in California, we are hoping and praying that Republican voters somehow magically surge at the last moment and turn out in greater numbers than we've seen up to this point. And it is frustrating. I am very worried. We're bracing for whatever outcome there is. And if Prop 50 passes, we will have a plan to deal with it. In fact, I'm inviting you to join me Wednesday at noon. It's the day after the election, Wednesday at noon, for a Zoom meeting where I will sort out the results of the Prop 50 fight. And if it passes, I'll tell you what we do next. And if we defeat Prop 50 with our Hail Mary pass of boosting turnout in these final hours of Republicans, then we'll tell you also what the next steps are. A lot of it's going to hinge on the California Voter ID Initiative, the petition drive that we have underway to get that on the ballot and make that the law of the land, because that is the great equalizer, the game changer, where we can come back even from a loss on Prop 50 and still have competitive elections in California. So if you want to join that Zoom meeting at Wednesday at noon, go to reformcalifornia.org and click under events and sign up. So let's talk about a couple things that happened today. First and foremost, President Trump, hours before polls closed, announced that his administration is pursuing criminal investigations into irregularities in voting out here. Now, you might remember that Trump sent monitors to 5 California counties to monitor the vote. And he's been very critical of, for good reason, the lack of integrity in our voting system out here. There have been allegations and reports that people who are inactive on the voter rolls have been suddenly returning ballots. Very suspicious. And of course, we know that our voter rolls are not properly maintained, that there's a lot of orphan ballots mailed out, millions of orphan ballots. About 10% of our voter file is out of date. But Trump tweeted, quote, "The unconstitutional redistricting vote in California is a giant scam in that the entire process, in particular the voting itself, is rigged. All mail-in ballots where Republicans in the state are shut out is under very serious legal and criminal review. Stay tuned." We don't know exactly what he's talking about. What we know are that we do have documented irregularities and that the monitors have been positioned in these counties. Today, I'm appalled by the reports that I'm hearing of certain polling stations being taken offline, shutting down because of equipment failure. Sound familiar? And I'll tell you in a moment why I think Republican voters they have no one else to blame but themselves. Oh, sure, you can blame the Democrats for running a crappy election, but you fell into their trap by not voting early. So more on that in just a moment. I want to talk about if Prop 50 passes, the potential legal challenges. There are going to be state challenges and federal challenges. The state challenges, if Prop 50 passes, and we hope it doesn't. The state challenges, I'm not so confident in that path. Because remember, you've got the California Supreme Court appointed by the Democrat politicians. They are loyal to the Democrat politicians that appointed them. When we filed the lawsuits against them in August for Prop 50 being unconstitutional and breaking the notification and the public notice laws, the California Supreme Court didn't even render a judgment in those cases. Just denied us. Just said, nope, we're not going to side with you on this. We deny your lawsuits. Now, when a court denies you remedy in your lawsuit without even writing an opinion, It's a chicken blank way of avoiding an explanation for why they're denying you. And I think the reason why is justices know that they're playing politics, that they're basically kowtowing to the politicians, serving as lapdogs rather than watchdogs. So you're going to probably see some litigation in state court. I don't expect that it's going to go very far because we have a corrupt system. You're likely also to see litigation in federal court. And I'm watching right now whether the Supreme Court rules on a case out of Louisiana about whether you can draw lines using skin color as a criteria. Majority minority districts. That's what the Louisiana case is all about. If the Supreme Court says that somehow those districts are not legitimate, it's not lawful, it's not consistent with the U.S. Constitution, 14th Amendment, equal protection and due process. If the Supreme Court says that you cannot draw lines based upon skin color, then we know that California's map would have to be revamped. And this is the Hail Mary shot, by the way, but it's the shot that I think we have to take. So I fully expect to see a Voting Rights Act lawsuit filed, perhaps by one party that says it doesn't go far enough to comply with VRA, and another party probably going further and saying that the Louisiana case, when finally decided, may very well kick out California's Prop 50 map. So what happens if the map gets overturned by any court of competent jurisdiction? Well, the politicians don't get another crack at bat. Prop 50 wasn't written that way. It just said, hey, we're going to approve the map that was adopted by the politicians in August. We're going to set aside the Citizens Commission. But everything else in Article 21 of the state constitution remains in effect, which means that if the Prop 50 map is somehow set aside by a court, then the California Supreme Court has to appoint a special master to redraw the lines in a manner that's consistent with the remaining criteria. Well, if you take away VRA, the remaining criteria would be geography, compactness, equal population. It would be very narrow in terms of the criteria that has to be used. The only problem there is that who appoints the special master? You guessed it, the California Supreme Court. And they would be the final arbiters as to whether or not the map is challenged as being correct or incorrect as it relates to the criteria. So it's going to be very hard to see the legal cases prevail, but I hope they do. I support at least giving it the good college try. And that's if Prop 50 passes. And again, we're recording this show before the ballots, the election results are in. We'll see. There's also whatever Trump is talking about in terms of his federal investigation. But again, I wouldn't put our eggs in that basket, which is why I hope that you join me tomorrow at noon when I walk through a comprehensive plan on the California Voter ID Initiative, which I think is the best way to come back from any sort of setback on Prop 50. At least you'll get honest voting. If you don't have fair lines, then what you have to do to still have a competitive chance to win is to at least have voter ID, so you have a fair voting process and you can clean up these orphan ballot issues and make sure that the people who vote are truly eligible, that they're citizens, and they are who they say they are. So that's going to be the focus of our noon briefing. Plus, we need to break the supermajority in Sacramento so that the politicians can't come back and make Prop 50 permanent. So more on that tomorrow. Please join the Zoom meeting at Zoom meeting at reformcalifornia.org and click under events. One final point I want to make. I got to say that Republicans were their own worst enemy in Prop 50. Not only did the party drop the ball in terms of not running an aggressive enough campaign, but voters themselves put themselves in a very bad spot. Here are some pictures from Valley Center. It's a line of people in Valley Center. Valley Center is not necessarily a big community, but here's our community center. It's where I live. And I pulled up this morning just to kind of check in to see how things are. I received a warning that the staff were overwhelmed because there was a big turnout in Valley Center, and they were worried that this would lead to voter suppression. A lot of unhappy voters, because the good news is there was a big turnout. The bad news is Democrats have cut polling centers by 80% statewide. And there's that line. You know, a low propensity voter who says, well, I've been told by my neighbor, I really have to give a damn about this election. So I'm going to go, and as long as it doesn't take me a lot of time, I will go vote no on Prop 50. You pull into the community center in Valley Center and you see this line, what are you likely to do? If you're a low propensity voter, you're going to leave. Do you understand that this is being done not only by Democrat politicians by reducing the number of polling centers in the state to a scarce number? It's being done by Republicans who are stubborn and don't want to vote early. And by the way, I've already covered in another podcast why voting on election day actually puts your ballot at risk. Most Republicans are duped into putting their ballot in an envelope, signing it, sealing it, and putting it in the box at the polling center, and it's not going to be counted that day. It's going to be counted during the week of Thanksgiving. It's the last to be counted box that you've just converted your ballot into. And if they don't match the signature and they count it at the end of the process, you get disenfranchised because you'll never know that your signature was kicked out. Whereas if you vote in the first 72 hours of the election and go to this handy dandy website that Reform California has, it's called trackmyballot.org, you can vote in the first 72 hours of the election, mail it in. Don't trust the mailing system, but mail it in, use it, and then track your ballot to make sure that your ballot was actually counted. And this website has the voter guide, has the ability to get a replacement ballot if you lost one. We've got to get Republicans to vote early, vote strategically, stop creating lines like this. So I walked in to the polling center and I looked around and I saw a bunch of people walking in because they saw the line and they were just putting their mail-in ballots into the bin, which basically means that that's going to be the last to be counted. If you were going to vote by mail, you should have voted in the first 72 hours, for goodness sakes. At least then you could track your ballot, verify it was received and counted. And if there was a problem in the first week of the election, you could fix it. You have 3 more weeks left to fix the issue, to get a replacement ballot. Can you promise me in the next election that you will help me educate other Republicans not to be fools, to vote in the first 72 hours by mail, but track it, verify it, and fix it if there's any problem? I do not want to see long lines at polling centers like this. By the way, this is one of the centers that also had a computer glitch. They shut down for a period of time today. At Reform California, we will be watching the results tonight along with you. Expect the first numbers to be pretty bad for the no side, because that will reflect a lot of Democrat voters. If we're in the mid 50s, like 55% or lower, we have a fighting chance of defeating Prop 50. If, as I fear, the polls are correct and Republicans don't turn out in waves, if the vote is anywhere near 55, 56, 57, 58, 60%, 62% yes at 8:05, I don't think we're going to overcome that gap. If at the end of the night, we're anywhere between 49 and 51% of the vote, expect weeks of counting. If we win Prop 50, if the no side wins, it's going to be awfully close. So tonight I expect we'll start from behind, then the numbers will slowly start getting better. The question is, how far behind do we start from as the day of vote, which tend to be more Republican, all those people standing in that line, as the day of vote is counted, the numbers will shift in our favor. Question is whether we're going to be close enough at the starting point for that to make a difference. So I'll give you a complete update and an action plan, a next steps plan tomorrow at noon, Wednesday, November 5th at noon. Please join us for the Zoom meeting, Life After Prop 50, the fight for voter ID, and the campaign to break the Democrat supermajority in 2026. Oh yeah, we got a comprehensive plan and I want you to be part of it. Go to reformcalifornia.org, sign up under the events section for tomorrow's November 5th, Wednesday briefing at noon. Until next time, I'm Carl DeMaio, Chairman of Reform California and a California State Representative. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. But before you click away, please subscribe to this channel and click that notification button so you get updated when we post new episodes. Plus, like this video and share it with your friends so that we can help spread our message across the state. Reform California with Carl DeMaio is paid for by Carl DeMaio for State Assembly.